Hello and welcome to Shakespeare Review. Today we'll be discussing the movie Much Ado About Nothing, 1993. Now this movie is about two young lovers who are to be wed, plot with others to draw two of their feuding friends into romance. Yet still others conspire to break up the wedding through lies and confusion. It was directed, adapted by, and starred Kenneth Branagh and his then wife, Emma Thompson. Also has Denzel Washington, Michael Keaton, Robert Sean Leonard, Keanu Reeves, and the film debut of Kate Beckinsale.
Sigh no more, ladies, sigh no more. Men were deceivers ever. One foot in sea and one on shore, to one thing constant never. So sigh not so, but let them go, and be you blithe and bonny, converting all your sounds of woe into hey, nonny, nonny.
Well done. This movie was a huge hit when it came out. It really took the world by storm. It really brought back the whole concept of Shakespeare can be popular and Shakespeare can make money.
Shakespeare can be sexy.
It can. Yes, it also brought forth the whole, and if you're doing Shakespeare in the 90s and beyond, Kenneth Branagh is who you want behind the helm. Because it was, they made money. I mean, they made more money than any Shakespeare film before it. And it was really, really popular. I mean, it brought Shakespeare to the masses in a way that really had not been done before.
And it had so many popular actors.
That's true.
From various genres and franchises. You had Keanu Reeves, who was most famously up to this point known for the Bill and Ted franchise. You had Michael Keaton, who had been Beetlejuice, had been Mr. Mom, and had been Batman. You had Denzel Washington, for crying out loud. You had some of the heaviest hitters of American actors in this ostensibly British film.
And I think that was a very wise choice that they made on that, because it definitely brought it to the mainstream. And, you know, it helped in other ways too. I think just having Shakespearean trained actors might have been a mistake. I mean, we go back to our review from a few weeks ago with Hamlet, where we talked about how only a few of them were traditionally Shakespeare trained, but the movie did so well and launched careers of so many people.
Absolutely.
And this one did as well. I mean, it had a lot of big names that people already knew, but it also helped launch some careers. This was Kate Beckinsale's first film, and a whole 10 years before Underworld.
Oh my gosh. And she was
so young. She was like 19 at that point.
And she's so phenomenal in it too.
She was so good in it. And she was so young, you really wouldn't recognize her if you knew it was Kate Beckinsale. I mean, she looked so different 10 years later that it's surprising. But no, I mean, everyone, most everyone did a great job with their acting. Let's put it that way.
Who are you thinking of?
Ooh, you want to know now? You want me to give it away already?
Yes!
You want me to throw that out?
Yes!
I'm gonna say that the weakest link in my watching was Keanu Reeves.
Oh my gosh! I knew you were going to say that too, and not because talking about this beforehand, but like, I know he's going with Keanu.
Yeah.
Going back to my freshman year at uni, which was in 1999. So we're aging me now. Going to my freshman year, we watched Much Ado About Nothing for a film night in the one theater at school. And, you know, it was on DVD. And when he says at the very top of the film, "I thank you. I am not of many words, but I thank you," someone paused the film. We all stood up and applauded. We then sat back down. The film was rewound 15 seconds or whatever, and we began again. We paused it a second time. We stood up and applauded. And then we continued with the movie. Partly because we were jackass college students, and partly because Keanu Reeves' reputation at the time as an actor to the general masses was, he's fine. He was okay in Point Break, but he wasn't considered a good actor. And the thing is, he's very good in his lanes. Like, let's look at The Matrix. I think he's terrific in that. Let's look at John Wick. Holy crap.
Yeah.
He is good at making fun of himself, playing Keanu Reeves in other things. But in this, he's not that great. But I feel that he does the movie no disservice. He is extra, and Don John is extra.
Okay, you're right, but I have one problem with that logic.
All right, let's do it.
Yes, I mean, he is extra, but at the same time, he's the primary villain in this.
Yes, who disappears entirely after Act 3.
I mean, yeah, you don't really... So he has a limited amount of time to sell this whole, I'm a villain, you should hate me, and this is going to cause more tension in the play or film. And he didn't do that. He didn't deliver that. I mean, it was bland, I think is fair. I won't say horrible. I'll agree he wasn't horrible, but he suffered from another problem.
What's that?
And that's the problem that happens in a lot of films when they put you in scenes with phenomenal actors. And, holding your own to hold your own with a great actor means you have to almost achieve greatness yourself. And if you don't do that, they might be carrying the scene, but you come across as pretty bland. And I think that's what happened. I don't think he could carry himself with Denzel Washington or Kenneth Branagh. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, nothing. I agree with you. I think in other movies, if he was in a scene with Kenneth Branagh in Point Break, he would have kicked ass. But I just don't see it.
Real quick, let's go and imagine that film. Kenneth Branagh's Point Break. Would he play it like Gilderoy Lockhart? That's a question.
I think he'd probably be more like more like the villain in Die Hard or something. Going in and approaching it like the European.
The vaguely Euro trash,
the Euro adventurer who's like I'm European. I do what I want. I don't care what you say. I rob banks. So what? I've got to fund my love. And if you Americans try to stop me, well, you're such Americans.
Also, I love surfing.
Yes, right, right. It would have been a different dynamic, that's for sure.
You know what? Take all my money. I want to see this now. Take all my money.
That, right?
I want to see Kenneth Branagh's Point Break.
Right,
Point Break 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Oh! Imagine if he didn't just star in it; he directed it too. Imagine Kenneth Branagh directing Point Break.
I can do that because he did. I felt he did all right with Thor. So
yeah. I mean,
which is a very mainstream film.
It is. I mean, he certainly has the chops to do it. Don't get me wrong. I just think it would be a very different film. It'd be interesting.
It totally would be.
Not in a necessarily good or bad way, just different, and it would be an interesting film. But yeah. I mean, that's my issue with Keanu. I think it was bad casting. I don't think he did a bad job, but I think it was bad casting.
And see, here's the thing on rising up to the concept of rising up to great actors' expectations. Sometimes a not as strong performer can seem to pull down their performances as well.
Yeah.
So that does work in both ways. Sometimes you rise up or they pull you up, and sometimes you can pull them down. But I don't think he was the weakest link of this film. I think that was actually Robert Sean Leonard.
Okay.
Robert Sean Leonard is supposed to be Claudio is supposed to be entirely entranced with Hero.
Yes.
And that is the most chaste freaking relationship I have ever seen. And it's just
young love, Shakespeare, you can make a good point.
Yeah. Young love is supposed to be passionate and full of electricity. And from Claudio and Hero, and it wasn't like an adorable, Oh my god, that's okay. It wasn't that. It was dull. But here's the thing. That is not actually the fault of Kate Beckinsale and Robert John Leonard, although I felt that he was
about
bland.
to say.
It's not the fault of the director in this case either. It is the fault of the writer, and I don't mean the screenwriter, Mr. Branagh. I mean me, Shakespeare. Claudio and Hero.
I got to prepare this scene for a replay when we go live with this, because this is this is a. Okay, we've got it. Go ahead. You got it.
Claudio and Hero being boring is all my fault. There, I said it. So Claudio and Hero being boring is Shakespeare's fault. The play, even though they are the A plot, and break things up, A plot, B plot, C plot, etc. The A plot is Claudio and Hero. The B plot is Beatrice and Benedict. That is a far more interesting movie. In fact, the opera that is based on this is not called Much Ado About Nothing. It is called Beatrice and Benedict.
I was about to say, I always thought that based on the movie at least, that it was a choice to keep them more innocent and basic, to really let Beatrice and Benedict shine. I mean, to really
a little
put
bit
them to the forefront.
I mean,
and it works. I think it works for that in the film, honestly.
It does work for it, but you also have a boring primary couple. And unfortunately for how the play works, because the dramatic build-up is from Hero being falsely accused, being slandered, done to death by slanderous tongues, by Don John and Barocchio and Conrad, that is the driving plot of the film. Whereas if you were able to keep it a fluffy romantic comedy between these two people who had at one point in their pasts, that is off screen, off the page, been involved with each other, they had a messy, nasty breakup, and now they are finding love and each other again. So we're talking about Benedict and Beatrice here. Mm-hmm. That is a far more engaging story. And it's a lot more fun. Now you need Hero being wronged in order for Benedict to prove his mettle. Because he then says to Beatrice, is what office might I do? She goes, it is not your job. He goes, might a man do it then? She goes, it is a man's job but not yours. And he says, bid me do anything. And she says, kill Claudio. He says, not for the wide world. And she continues on, then you kill me tonight. He agrees because of his deep love for her. Not even about his feeling in the rightness of the cause, but because of his love for Beatrice is so strong that he is willing to face down his friends, now his former friends in his mind, because they have wronged a lady. And so that proves his mettle. So you still need the Hero and Claudio element of it, but they are, frankly, boring. And Robert Sean Leonard is black.
I agree. I didn't necessarily have a problem with that, because their romance was almost arranged. I mean, he saw her from afar and was like, I want this, and it got set up for him.
No. You are totally right.
2 conversations of dialogue. It was, even if they were the most passionate lovers that they could be, they had very little time to show it. I don't know.
You are correct.
It didn't really affect me that much. It's interesting that it really bothered you.
No, it's a thing that it's not a thing that bothers me of the movie. Okay. It is a thing that bothers me of the play.
Okay, yes, that's fair.
That Claudio and Hero are so poorly written.
Okay.
They have
you need to get on a rewrite of that. I'm just saying.
Hey. I'm in quarantine. I got nothing else going on. I'm just watching films and giving commentary right now. I could rewrite it and make them better and keep Beatrice and Benedict stuff the same. But Claudio and Hero, they just need more meat. And that, again, is not the fault of the director. It's not the fault of the actors. It is the fault of Shakespeare in the 1590s.
Well, I mean, Kenneth Branagh has taken his liberties. Maybe he should have here.
Yeah, maybe he should have just given him a musical number or two.
Well, it practically did in a few scenes. So there's some good camera work in this film.
Oh my gosh, the cinematography is literally soaring.
Yes. Branagh is known to have long takes in his films, and at the beginning with the horses riding in and the people all rushing to the villa and getting dressed and all of that. I mean, the making a scene like what I just described and making it grand and impressive and flow well. I mean, with slow motion takes here and there and very fast moving running scenes intermixed in. I mean, it's crazy how he managed to do that. It was brilliant. And then at the ending, when he did like about a 3-minute single shot following everybody walking through the grounds of the villa, and then at the end, the camera just gets moved up like 40 feet and starts panning around to view all like dozens and dozens of groups dancing around the grounds nearby in the distance, flower petals being thrown out the windows, 100 yards away. I mean, you're just like, wow. I mean, it's just as every 10 seconds goes on, the scope just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's quite impressive. I mean, I tried to find out how many takes that scene took, and I couldn't find it anywhere. I was really curious because it was impressive. And that's one of the things that Branagh brings to the table. He brings this idea of the camera is a main character in the movie. It can create emotion just like music can, just like the acting can, just like the writing can. And if you use them all together right, I mean, it's a wonderful tool in your toolbox.
And he allows the long shots to work for monologues, soliloquies, lines of dialogue.
You're right.
Of just really allowing people to show how well they can act Shakespeare.
That is very true.
There is actually very little poetry in this. This is a play. It's not even just a blank verse play. There's a lot of blank verse. There's a bit of lines and meter, but mostly it is prose. And you find that to be the case with most of the comedies. Most of the comedies are in prose. We're just talking back and forth. We're making jokes. It goes quickly. And that is a phenomenal aspect of this because it allows two of the best Shakespearean actors that you could find at the time, Kenneth Branagh and Emma Thompson, to just really show how good they are.
And they were married at the time.
Oh, they were. And you
not to say that that's why they were cast. I mean, I think that it just to demonstrate the extra level of chemistry that they had together.
And they were at this time starting their divorce.
Yeah.
And you can see the electric sparks. There's so much going on behind the scenes betwixt them that there is levels of electricity, and they're able to play all of it. They're able to play love and hate with each other
very well.
Simultaneously because they were also feeling it. They were able to bring the real world experiences and feelings to the screen and let it play out. And it is beautiful. And it is frankly amazing. They are able to show you not just what good Shakespearean actors they are, but what just good actors they are. And how good at comedy both of them are. She falls out of a tree. He playing in the fountain. His splashing around in the fountain victoriously. I will be horribly in love with her. I'm quoting so much of this just because this is my actual favorite of the Shakespeare canon of all the plays. This one is my favorite.
Wow.
And so we're hitting it very early in our process here. But I love this film. I think even though Robert Sean Leonard, for my taste, is a bit bland, that even though Keanu Reeves, for your taste, and 19-year-old me taste of is not a grand actor, I think that this play rises above all of that. You have Michael Keaton being just Looney Tunes as Dogberry.
Brilliant.
You have Brian Blessed in a smaller part as Antonio, Signor Leonardo's brother. You have him just being huge and jocular in the background until that one moment when they are facing down Don Pedro and Claudio, he goes, I loved my niece. And you have all of this power of the man who was the Duke of York a few years earlier in Branaght's Henry V. It is amazing just seeing all of this skill and majesty coming to play in this. So yeah, I thought the film was okay.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I think Michael Keaton was a bit of a risk, and it paid off. I mean, just coming out of the second Batman film, Batman Returns, and everybody was so used to him as Batman, and then seeing him as this character was a bit of a shock to the audiences back then.
It shouldn't have been, though. It should.
Well, I mean,
audiences have amazingly short memories.
They do.
Because
Beetlejuice saved it. I think if it hadn't been for Beetlejuice, it might have been too much of a stretch for the audience to follow, in my opinion.
The thing is, you have, before Beetlejuice, you have Mr. Mom. You have...
True.
You have Johnny Dangerously. You have... which is not a great film.
Those movies were not as hugely popular as Batman, though, and Beetlejuice.
No.
And I think that's the difference. I mean, core movie viewers, sure. But the general populace, I don't think they... I mean, Johnny Dangerously and Mr. Mom were not huge hits.
Not huge hits, no, but just in order to see his comedic chops.
Oh, yeah, you knew he could do it. I mean, I'm saying the producers, they totally knew he could do it. But it's still, it's like... it's like to huge fans of Star Wars, seeing some of the older Alec Guinness comedy work that he was so famous for, but mostly in England.
Yeah.
And it's jarring to some people watching him just do the goofiest stuff. It's just, you have this preconceived idea, and it can totally derail a viewing of a film if it suddenly takes you away from that suspension of disbelief.
Absolutely.
But I think Beetlejuice, because of Beetlejuice and how popular it was, I think that saved it, so audiences just thought it was brilliant and they got past that Batman thing. That's just my opinion on him, but he was brilliant.
Sure.
Oh, he was just brilliant.
He's so great.
I mean,
let it be written down, I am an ass. I mean, just the voice and everything. He's talking right here.
And the cadence and how oh my God, the timing was about perfect. Oh my God.
He is the gold standard of Dogberry.
He really is now. He really is. And really, it is, as an epitaph goes, that's not too bad.
No.
I mean, I would be okay with that myself. So that's... Yeah.
Also, he's Batman.
Yes. And I mean, you get, like you said, Brian Blessed. I mean, a small role, really, but I mean, such an amazing character actor.
And he feels it with such life.
He does everything. And the maid, Imelda Staunton, who played Hero's maid, who is later Dolores Umbridge in the Harry Potter series.
Oh my God, you're right.
Oh, you just got... Oh, yeah.
Oh, I forgot that entirely because, again, such different worlds and everything.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this and you say, okay, she was Dolores Umbridge, you got Emma Thompson, and Kenneth Branagh. I mean, so you got some Harry Potter people in here.
Yeah, some Hogwarts professors!
Early on. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah. But that's the thing. I mean, this is a good example of a film that they got some really great names for the cast, but they also got some new names who were going to be great names.
Yes.
And that's a good casting director. That's the brilliance sometimes. And you need that in a film like this. You really do, because in my opinion, Shakespeare is only as good as the weakest character in a scene.
All right.
I mean, a great actor can really elevate a scene, but a weak actor can lower it even further.
Yes.
So I don't. It's a tough. This is really tough. Where in other types of movies, I don't think you have quite as much pressure. Shakespeare really puts a lot of emphasis on every character in a scene. Even though they might be extraneous, I think they're important to the scene.
Yes, and I think in this, Branagh did brilliantly in giving every small part room to live.
I agree.
The Verges, so Dogberry's lieutenant, the rest of the watch, the ladies and gentlemen in waiting in Messina, all of the background people at the ball, how he gave the Reverend just a beautiful moment of "Come, lady, die to live." I mean, just gives everybody their moment in this, and it's breathtaking. It's just absolutely beautiful, and the score is gorgeous.
Oh, the music's wonderful.
The music is a character for this.
It is. It is very much so. It carries the film in many ways. It is. It helps. It sways your emotions left and right. I mean, it is a wondrous addition and done wonderfully with the cinematography. It is a win-win situation there. Okay, I do want to ask you, how like the play is the movie?
Oh, it's incredibly close. I mean, he cuts out a lot. He cuts out a lot of the chuffer,
Yes.
in terms of lines, but virtually nothing that he cuts out could you say absolutely needed to be there.
Yes.
He cuts out, let's say, extraneous lines. He cuts out a couple of problematic lines that just are not good in a late 20th century and now 21st century worldview. He did a remarkably good job with doing the screenplay, because Branagh did quadruple work on this picture. He was the director. He's one of the named producers. He was the screenwriter, adapting it from Shakespeare and then also putting it into proper formatting. And he plays the male lead. So he had a lot on his plate going on, and he's going through a divorce all at the same time. But this is incredibly close to what you would see in a good stage production. And in fact, quite a few stage productions have aped this film. I was in one myself of it. I've done this play twice. And so much of the aesthetic gets taken and put into stage productions.
Interesting.
Because it is such a grand representation.
I suppose that's common,
what
though.
Shakespeare
Somebody
can be done.
does a great production of this, and then the future productions borrow from it.
Oh yeah,
on the
look
stage.
at the Mel Gibson Hamlet.
Yes.
That aesthetic is taken over time and time again for stage productions. Yeah, so I think this one is an amazing reproduction, a faithful representation of what you would find. I think it's a great way to introduce young people to Shakespeare, because I saw this for the first time in high school or junior high. I forget.
Oh, yeah. It's a very, very good, innocent way to say, look at Shakespeare and appreciate it. I agree.
Exactly. And the thing is, this play is not usually taught in high schools or junior high schools.
That's true.
This is one that's
Why do
considered...
you think that is?
I don't know. I think we've fallen so in love with the three wise men of Shakespeare plays. You have Romeo and Juliet, you have Macbeth, and you have Hamlet. Some schools do King Lear, which is very heavy. Some schools will substitute out Macbeth for something else, or Hamlet for something else. But
are they just afraid of comedy? I mean, what the hell?
It might be because it's like, oh, is it really funny? And it's just like, yes, it's adorable. It is a romantic comedy. That is what it is.
Comedies are normally not quite as long.
No, so they're not.
That should be a good thing.
This is one of the longer of the comedies.
True.
But this is also one of the comedies that is actually funny. Too. Because so many of the comedies aren't funny. Whereas a lot of the tragedies are, which is a fun twist. Yeah. Because we have different definitions now of comedy. As they did. But this should be used in schools far more often than it is. And I would happily endorse this film as an intro to Shakespeare piece.
This is just such a wonderful film on so many levels and so many areas. I mean, it is, of course, much easier to talk about the one or two deficiencies it has, and even those are minor. It's
exactly.
Really,
it's so easy to make fun of Keanu, but he's also Keanu Reeves, and thus you feel like you're kicking a puppy.
If you were in another film, I mean, putting him in a similar situation, you wouldn't make much of a big deal out of it, because it's just everything else was so perfect. Anything that's not not perfect, it's easy to point out because it stands out, and that's the only thing. So it's hard to be too critical. And I will say that the first time I saw this movie, which was in the theater when it came out, Keanu, it was a little more jarring to see him like that, and I think I was very biased, like a lot of the audience was. So it's easy to be a little more judgmental. But since then, he has done a lot more. He's expanded his range of acting ability, and he's taken more seriously in other genres. So I think now it's a lot easier to be forgiving and not be off-put by that.
Completely and totally agree with you. Also, the film-going audience now is a lot more sophisticated than they were 27 years ago when this movie was made. You have... Maybe. I would highly argue that it is, because you're able to do moves of Jeff Goldblum being in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in Thor Ragnarok. You're able to have Robert Downey Jr. become a bloody superhero and also the core of the entire MCU because of just how much more chances and risks people are taking, and that the film industry itself is willing to do, saying, hey, you know what, people, let's not play to the lowest common denominator with all of these. Let's just make the art we want to make and invite people to catch up with us. I think the more risks that they're willing to take, the better overall it is. And yeah, you're going to have misfires, but you're going to have a lot more chances. And then people not being shell-shocked when they see Michael Keaton be Batman and then see him be Dogberry. And then, everything else.
Casting risks, I'll agree with you. Movie risks, not so much. I don't agree with you, because I look at it as they do play to the lowest common denominator. They're about making money more now than
they absolutely are.
27 years ago. 27 years, now, I don't know if this movie could be made.
And that's another thing. It's funny. If this were to be made, it would have to be a much bigger budget version of it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the mid-level adult comedy is largely a thing of the past.
Yes.
But
and it's a shame.
Occasionally, you do get them.
And when you do,
largely
it's
from
wonderful.
Judd Apatow.
Yeah.
But it's also the time. Or if this were to be made now, I think this would be a Netflix or an Amazon movie.
That's okay. That's possible.
Because they seem to be starting to fill in that niche of where does a movie like this land. And it's like, you know what?
Yeah.
We'll throw $30 million at it. It's going to be on Netflix for forever, and people will discover it in their own time. And we'll do a big advertising push towards the beginning, and every so often, just like, oh, what that we own do we want to push this week? It would work like that, and it becomes a fun discovery for people.
The budget on this movie, by the way, was $11 million, 1993.
So small budget, even by the time
that's standard.
The stakes of the day.
Not insanely small, but certainly not a low budget film. Exactly,
No,
not like an indie film, but certainly not a high budget. And that was around the same time that $100 million for a movie was considered ridiculous. You just that's insane money.
Now we're in $250 million.
Yeah, right. But they made back $36 million, so they tripled their money. It was such a huge success, and it was filmed. They saved money by filming it entirely in one location.
Yeah,
a villa in Florence, Italy, or outside Florence, Tuscany, and the grounds, everything all there, and brilliant. And that when you have control of a location like that, it really helps with the money
does.
part. So yeah, I can see where that's how they managed to get all of those names in there at that time. I bet a lot of the budget went to the actors.
And I'm sure a bunch of the actors were willing to kind of work for a lower piece of like, hey, you want to go to Italy for 3 months? Yes.
Yeah, go to Italy. Do you want to work with Denzel? You want to work with Kenneth Branagh? You start throwing out a few of the initial names, and other people are like, hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This type of film just helps everyone. It was an art film that you get paid for, and is a big budget art film, and that just helps. They had so many high hopes for the for Oscars for this film.
Oh
the
my
studio
gosh!
pushed it like crazy.
Well, good. They should have.
And it didn't get anything. It was so timing. It was just a bad time for that kind of.
What was it up against?
Oh gosh, in '93. I mean, there was a lot of. This was like the heyday of films, and I think movies like. Oh gosh, in '93. I mean, this was like the heyday of the CGI. Like movies like The Abyss and things like that were out, and it was really. It was a tough time for this type of film.
Emma Thompson not winning Best Actress for this film.
Yeah,
that is a travesty,
and it's crazy, and it's a problem. I mean, it was, for the standard of the time, considered a low budget film, and a little niche. I think it was. This is what redefined what a movie like this could do, and I think in future years it opened the door for Shakespeare movies to catch Oscars, the Academy's eye. Because I think this was looked at as a mistake in Oscar nominations.
No, it very much is. Well, we are now going long, so we should probably wrap this up.
Yes, we should. I mean, we can talk about this film for a long time because I think both of us love it so much.
So much to talk about.
I think I'm going to have to give this film. I'm going to have to give this film a full Hey Nonny Nonny.
Oh. Brava.
I think, yes, a full Hey Nonny Nonny. I think, not even a question about it. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but...
I feel like I've put the words in your mouth. I will have to give this myself a full Hey Nonny Nonny. I had to try to say it sexy there. You understand?
Well, it's the Shakespeare way. So
yeah, it really is.
So yes, a wonderful time talking about this movie. It's always great to have an excuse. Not that I need one to see the movie again. So
join us next week when we're talking about the Kenneth Branagh version of Point Break. And I do hope you join us for that amazing, surf-tastic Shakespearean adventure. That's going to be a good time. But in the meantime, you need to go follow us on all of the social media, Facebook, Instagram, etc. And also, if you enjoyed this show half as much as we enjoyed making it, then we enjoyed it twice as much as you did. And that's called math. And that being the case, please go become a supporter of Life's Affair on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Life's Affair to make more great shows like this. And also, follow Andrew and I on social media. On Instagram, you can find me at Shakespeare.approves, and on Facebook, Shakespeare Approves. Andrew, where can I find you?
You can find me on, of course, Life's Affair, but Facebook /The Irish Bard and Patreon.com/Irish Bard and theirishbard.com.
There you go. So friends, until next time, hey, nonny, nonny.